In an era with no police, state, how do we fight crimes of passion such as rape, domestic abuse, etc.?
Matt?
Where do we start here? I mean, first of all, we should point out that 95 to 99% of most crime exists as a direct result of the pressures induced by the monetary system. And probably the rest could be said to indirectly be related. Remember, there's always a behavioral chain of causality that needs to be understood. Just because we can't understand the source of a particular behavioral abnormality doesn't mean that it's just ingrained in the human species or anything like that. Also, we're not claiming that we can get rid of 100% of all crime or every form of behavioral distortion. The point is to build an environment that brings out the best of all human people and to reduce the negatives that our current system produces.
Questions, a webcast can't see you, so step out.
I would add to that in an environment that is as positive, at least intuitively positive, as what we're talking about, any aberrant behavior after that point, in almost every respect, would be a mental disorder, a medical issue. There is something going on up here, likely, that has triggered a misbehavior. And that's a medical thing that we can help people and learn from and try to figure out the human condition even better. I mean, we do a good job of sabotaging our own human condition as it is in this system. So, to get out of this system and then be able to look at bad behavior under a different set of circumstances will do nothing more than improve the awareness of ourselves. So for me, questions like that it's more of a medical thing. It would be helped. People would be psychologically and medically helped, but not like medically, here's this pill, but medically in a more scientific, traditional sense.
Just to kind of shatter the simplicity and absolutism of the question, even though it's been stated in a poetic sense, in the future system, there's no necessity for prisons and police. There's something I've termed the humanity factor, and that's this causal element. There's a chaos to human development, and to say you can weed out, either biologically or culturally, every type of offensive behavior is very difficult. It doesn't mean you can't reduce it to a fraction of a percent based on where we are now. So in James Gilligan, who's a tremendous thinker in violence, he makes the statement very clear. It's a public health issue if you have somebody who's so aberrated to remove them from society. It doesn't mean you're going to abuse them and punish them like we do in the structure of this arcane prison system we have today, but to remove someone, so to have an official authority, a public health official, who, if needs to use restraint on somebody who's completely out of control with a mental disorder, harming people, you remove them and you take care of them and figure out what happened. That isn't the same as prisons and police, but there's a function there that, with like any immune system, things can go wrong. Our system isn't perfect, so your body can develop problems. The immune system comes in. That's why the joke, the Zeitgeist movement, is the social immune system of the world. It relates to a different level to say that we're actually trying to get rid of all these other aberrancies to reduce all these problems because of this cancerous system in general. So I hope that makes sense. It's an absolutism that's really a fallacy, as Matt pointed out in his lecture.
And we shouldn't forget that some of these practices are already in place. If you go to Norway, you'll see that some prisons are actually rehabilitation centers where people work together, they kind of figure out what happened in their life, and they learn new skills and they get integrated in the community. So instead of, in most prisons, you get somebody who's virtually honest, or maybe they commit a very demeanor, like not much of a big deal, crime. Then he gets in and becomes a criminal, right? A real criminal, because he has to deal with that kind of pressure in the prison. In some countries more evolved, like Norway, this doesn't happen. So it's not like we're talking about something completely alien to what we're already experiencing. And also, public officials should be proportional to the requirements for them. So the question, how would you deal with, the rapist, or in the future, if you don't have a police? Well, you're going to have the proportional number of public officials to the crimes that you have. So you're never going to be out of public officials to take care of that situation because it's an evolving process.